Welcome to Sick Flicks, where we take a deep dive into the cinematic sewer to examine some of the goriest and most disturbing movies ever made. I'm Mike Bracken, aka the Horror Geek, and today we're tackling Clive Barker's unforgettable debut feature, Hellraiser. Released in 1987, Hellraiser not only put Barker on the map as a horror filmmaker after years of earning critical acclaim for his novels and short stories, it also introduced the world to the Cenobites. These explorers in the further regions of pleasure and pain were led by Doug Bradley's Pinhead. Pinhead was an instant horror icon, and Hellraiser would go on to become a horror franchise. Although, like most franchises, the sequels get pretty dire pretty quickly. Based on Barker's novella, The Hellbound Heart, and almost titled Sadomasochist from Beyond the Grave at one point, Hellraiser is a twisted domestic drama and dark fairy tale filtered through an S&M lens. But how many barf bags will Pinhead and the Cenobites earn on the Gore Card? We'll find out later, but first, let's break down the plot. Before the film proper kicks off, we get some credits. Directed by Clive Barker, because when you want shit done right, you basically gotta do it yourself. Barker agreed to direct Hellraiser because he was tired of other people ruining his stories when turning them into movies. The film opens in this market, where Frank Cotton offers up an awful lot of greenbacks for this weird-looking Christmas tree decoration.
Take it. It's yours. It always was.
Oh yeah? Then why am I paying for it? Then, because Frank spent all his money on the box and can't afford to keep the electricity on, he's forced to play with his new Rubiks Cube by candlelight. Wonder what happens if I push this button. Fun fact, this was an early prototype of the Rubiks Cube. They had to scrap it because kids kept getting ripped apart by hooks every time they solved it. Frank's overspending on the box not only got his electricity cut off, but he had to let the maid go too. Man, when they say people were really hooked on the Lament Configuration, they weren't kidding. And here we get our first look at Pinhead, a name Clive Barker despises and was actually applied by fans. He's just lead Cenobite in the credits for this film. He's putting Frank's face back together, which looks like it's a lot easier to solve than the box. Yeah, this just goes here, slide this over, voila, good as new. Pinhead then closes the box. Man, look at those visual effects, and it's like nothing ever happened. Then, sometime later, the Scorpio Killer from Dirty Harry and Budget Joan Collins show up at the house. This is Larry and Julia, and they're moving in. Say what you want about the place, but the decor is amazing. That sculpture looks like Pagan Christmas and Halloween got drunk one night and made a baby. Larry here is all ready to call in the Property Brothers for a full-on home renovation, but Julia asks about Frank, who, it turns out, is his brother.
He's probably behind bars someplace.
Or in pieces in the floorboards of your attic. One or the other. She heads upstairs and Jesus is like, hey, I've got my eye on you, lady. Meanwhile, in the kitchen, Larry finds Frank's science fair project. Dude, this is the worst Airbnb ever. I hope you don't expect a good review. Then they find Frank's belongings upstairs in his dorm room. Booze? Check. Porn? Check. Crusty sheets? Double check. Downstairs, Larry gets a call from his daughter, Kirsty, played by Scream Queen Ashley Laurence in her first role. Back upstairs, Claire here is pilfering through Frank's porn audition photos and keeps one for herself. Naughty Claire. Very naughty. We jump ahead a bit and it's move-in day. Larry might not be getting his money's worth with the hired help because they work for about 30 seconds then stop to leer at his wife. After a montage of Kirsty walking, she finally arrives at the house. What the hell? These guys are still on break? Hope Larry's not paying by the hour. Then things get awkward.
That your daughter?
Uh-huh.
Got her mother's looks.
Her mother's dead.
Well, yeah, but she's still hot, right? Back upstairs, Julia here wanders right into a flashback. Frank shows up in the rain, and Julia, who's got a sweet Mel Gibson mullet, is powerless to resist his bad boy charms. Next thing you know, they're doing some family bonding. I'm guessing Larry's not going to be cool with this. Oh man, they even do it right on her wedding dress. Classy. While she's busy having her X-rated daydreams, Larry gets nailed in a different way while trying to get the mattress upstairs. He heads to the attic, looking like he's leaking red motor oil. Come on, man, you're getting it all over the floor. We just moved in and you're ruining the place already. Luckily for Larry and Julia, this house cleans itself. Those floorboards are thirsty, but the bad news is now they've got a taste for blood. We then transition into Barker's version of the Telltale Heart, only now with more S&M and sex. The blood has awoken something in the house. Someone should probably do a better job at nailing down those floorboards. Can't believe the home inspector missed this. Oh great, and now we've got a goo leak. Do you know how much it's gonna cost to repair all of this? Holy shit, the house is growing arms. Run, we're powerless to stop it. Honestly, this is Frank being revived by the spilled blood in the attic, and it gives us one of Hellraiser's most infamous sequences. Frank's resurrection is beautifully shot, and the score only adds to the dark majesty of it all. While Frank's busy growing a spine up in the attic, Larry and Julia are hosting what may be the most awkward dinner party in history. I mean, first we've got stupid human tricks, then we've got this lunkhead making a pass at Kirsty right in front of her dad.
Me, thanks. Okay, stop. I'm not gonna be able to stand up.
So lie down.
Claire's clearly not feeling it, so she's all like, I'm out of here. On her way to bed, she hears something rumbling around in the attic. Is it rats or a half-formed sentient human cadaver? Place your bets. Oh, it's rats eating leftover goo from a half-formed sentient human cadaver. Everyone wins. While Julia's busy being disgusted, she finds herself grabbed by a jump scare.
Tell me who you are.
Frank.
You might not recognize me. I mean, last time you saw me, I had skin. With that out of the way, it's time for some exposition.
The blood brought me this far. I need more.
After the party, Kirsty and Dopey Dude walk home. But the real point of this scene is so that we can see this crazy homeless guy watching them from the shadows. Trust me, he's gonna be sort of important later. Back at the house, Julia doesn't even need to sleep on it before she's made up her mind about how to proceed with the Frank situation.
You'll do it.
Yes. I will.
Aw, that's a special kind of love when you're willing to commit murder for the object of your affection. You'll know you've found true love when you find someone who looks at you like Julia looks at a skinless, half-formed Frank. The next day, it's out to pick up strange men in the middle of the afternoon. It doesn't take long before Phil Collins here takes the bait. He's an easy lover, all right. After some charming, Julia leads him upstairs. He's totally not bothered by doing it in the attic, and he's stripped down to his tighty-whities in no time. One look at that pasty ass is all Julia needs, because as he heads for the bathroom, she bashes his head in. Man, usually you get hammered at the bar, not after you leave. With the deed done, Frank's ready for lunch. Better eat him before he gets cold. After a trip to clean up, yeah, good luck getting that blood out of your blouse, she returns to the attic to find that Frank's eyes are a little bigger than his stomach. Come on, man, there's still meat on those bones. There are starving half-formed ghoul children in Africa who would kill for that food. Anyway, this second dose of blood has Frank looking like Slim Goodbody. And if you're not like 35 years old, that joke probably doesn't mean a thing to you.
Come here. Come here, damn you, I want to touch you.
Damn, dude doesn't even have skin yet and he's already barking out orders.
Come to daddy.
Okay, that's creepy. But maybe not as creepy as this.
You want a cookie, little girl?
What's with the men in this family? Christ. Julia heads back up to see Frank, who drops some more exposition on her.
The Cenobites. It's only a matter of time before they find I've slipped them. I must get away from here.
Oh yeah, just in case you forgot, Pinhead and his crew are still in this movie. While subsequent Hellraiser sequels would give the Pope of Hell significantly more screen time, it's interesting to note that the Cenobites only have around 9 minutes in front of the camera in this film. While all of that's going on, Kirsty's over here working her job at the pet store. And it's going great.
Where's the manager?
The homeless guy from earlier shows up, and he's eating all her grasshoppers. Hey, don't judge. They're a great source of protein. She kicks him out, but he's like, joke's on you, lady. I got a few left in my beard for later. Back in the attic, Frank needs a smoke after all that killing. And why not? He's got a brand new set of lungs, and that lung cancer's not going to develop all by itself. Then he's ready to dole out some more exposition. He explains the Lament Configuration, and then it's time for a flashback. A flashback and exposition? That's like a double win.
The Cenobites gave me an experience beyond the limits.
Man, this is the weirdest fetish club outside of that one in Tokyo Gore Police. Frank tells Julia that he can't have the Cenobites find him, and that they have to escape and hide from them. She's all like, cool. Later that night, while Larry and Julia are having some sexy time, skinless Frank shows up to watch. Man, when did this turn into an episode of R. Kelly's Trapped in the Closet? Also, editorial aside, fuck R. Kelly. It looks like he's here to skin Larry, but he's really just hanging out and having a snack. Try the rat, it's delicious. The next day, things get more complicated when Kirsty spots Julia sneaking in one of her random punters for an afternoon delight. Kirsty eventually wanders into a jump scare, and then she gets reacquainted with dear old Uncle Frank.
Don't you kid yourself. Some things have to be endured.
Yeah, like a Friends marathon. She grabs a handful of his guts and then nails him in the nuts. Guess those grew back. Before grabbing the box and chucking it out the window. Easy there, Darth Vader. She flees with the box and runs herself into some kind of fugue state, which leads to her being taken to the hospital. The doctor shows up to interrogate her and leaves her with the Lament Configuration, which she then promptly opens like an idiot. Way to go, Kirsty. For some reason, opening this doesn't bring out the hooks, but it does create a crack in the wall. This hospital must need some foundation work. She wanders through the newly opened hallway because why not, and then gets chased by a freaky-looking version of Slimer from Ghostbusters. Turns out this monster is known as the Engineer, but I'm not sure if his degree in engineering actually came from an accredited college. Hell's higher education system isn't the best. One funny thing about seeing Hellraiser in HD is that you can now see the gurney they're using to make this monster move. Anyway, Kirsty makes it back to her hospital room, but her troubles aren't over yet. The walls start glowing and then this gong goes off. Did we just end up in an episode of Law & Order, Cenobite Victim Unit? Then, in another of the film's most infamous scenes, Pinhead and his crew show up to see Kirsty. Aw, it's nice when people come to visit you in the hospital. Chatterer's the first to arrive, and he's like, damn, it's always so cold in these hospital rooms. Pinhead eventually arrives, and Jesus, someone's running that fog machine in overdrive. He explains who they are, and that they're taking Kirsty back to hell with them.
The box. You opened it. We came.
But she gets the bright idea to bargain with the Cenobites, offering up Frank for her own soul.
I can lead you to hell, and you can take him back instead of me.
Pinhead then lays out the ground rules for this transaction, but stops short of actually agreeing to it.
I want to hear him confess himself. Then, maybe.
Oh, and he and the High Priestess offer up this warning.
But if you hate us, we'll tear your soul apart.
That sounds delightful. Back at the house, Frank and Julia are plotting their next move. It's going to be hard to go on the run until Frank gets a new skin suit. Maybe call up Buffalo Bill. He might have something in your size. Frank, of course, has other ideas.
My brother will be home soon.
Kirsty shows up with the puzzle box to tell her dad what's going on, but Dad's not Dad anymore. All the blood at his hairline should be the first clue, but Kirsty doesn't get it. She's not the sharpest fishhook in the puzzle box, clearly. She is suspicious enough to ask to see the body, which is still smoking for some reason. I bet it smells great up there, like boiled Vienna sausages and dirty pennies. Pinhead and the Cenobites show up in the attic and, well, they want some answers.
We want the man who did this.
Kirsty, who's pretty slow on the uptake, still thinks that's Frank's body on the floor and that they want her father. She finally figures out that's Frank wearing her dad's skin like a Hugo Boss suit when she runs into him downstairs. With the jig now up, he makes his move to finish off Kirsty, but misses and stabs Julia instead. Sorry, honey, hard to see with the fake skin suit on. Larry's forehead keeps sliding down and covering my eyes. And well, since you're already stabbed, I hope you don't mind if I feed on you too. I mean, waste not, want not, right? Kirsty then makes the classic final girl mistake of running up to the attic instead of out the front door, and Frank's in slow pursuit. Frank said the cat and mouse shit was over, but clearly he was wrong as he stalks through the house trying to find Kirsty. Jesus Christ, that's a jump scare. But wait, there's more. One of Julia's earlier victims pops in to Ralph up some maggots. Nice. Anyway, they eventually wind up back in the attic where Frank offers up a eulogy for Larry. Then he reassures Kirsty that everything's gonna be okay.
Frank's here.
Bastard!
Your dear old Uncle Frank.
Yeah, bad move, Frank.
We had to hear it from your own lips.
Wait, did she really hear it from Frank's own lips? I mean, technically, those belong to Larry. Before Frank can even move, Hell's Hottest S&M Club is back and open for business. Then we come to another of Hellraiser's most infamous scenes. Pinhead and crew waste no time trussing Frank up with the hooks. This movie is really pulling him in a lot of different directions. Then he looks at Kirsty, licks his lips, and utters one of the film's most memorable lines.
Jesus wept.
Fun fact, the original line of dialogue was a much simpler "fuck you," but Andrew Robinson came up with "Jesus wept," which sounds way cooler. And then he laughs and his head explodes. Good times. But it's not over yet. Remember, Pinhead never agreed that he'd take Frank and trade for Kirsty. The Cenobites want both. Kirsty runs through the house and finds Julia's corpse with the puzzle box and some chains of her own. She takes the device from her dead stepmother's hands and starts trying to solve it.
We have such sights to show you.
Yeah, like the scenic overlook at Hell's Lake of Fire and Satan's Mansion. You'll love it. We've already set up an itinerary with a travel agent. Best vacation ever. Pinhead's the first to go back to Hell, which sort of proves that Barker didn't realize what an icon he and actor Doug Bradley were creating with this character. He's the arch villain of this franchise, but here he gets sent back to Hell like some kid getting sent to his room for not eating his vegetables. Kirsty then sends everyone else back, and man, look at those special effects. The production ran out of money, and Barker and an artist friend did this on their own over the course of a weekend. I admire the effort and ingenuity, even if the effect looks hokey beyond words. The house is collapsing like it's a John Cougar Mellencamp song, and Kirsty's dippy boyfriend is back to do basically nothing. Yeah, that sounds right. They're about to make their escape, but here comes one more jump scare. Hey, look, it's the engineer again. After a mad scramble to recover the fumbled puzzle box, Kirsty sends him back to Hell too. They escape, and then the house suddenly turns into a pile of rubble? Yeah, sure, I'll go along with that. Kirsty then tosses Lemarchand's box into the fire. But not so fast. Remember that crazy homeless dude? Yeah, he shows up and snatches it right out of the flames, then turns into this dragon demon that would look right at home on an Iron Maiden album cover and flies off into the night. And then everything comes full circle, with the box once again on a table in the bazaar, and another unwitting soul about to take a one-way trip straight to hell. Cue credits. And that, my fellow gore geeks, was Hellraiser. Barker's film is quite different from the novella that inspired it, which makes it one of the rare instances where the movie is arguably better than the book, or at the very least a worthy companion piece. Being a first-time director, Barker found making Hellraiser a bit of a challenge, noting that he didn't know the difference between a 10mm lens and a 35mm one when shooting began. But that was just one of many challenges he'd face. The film caught the attention of the MPAA rating board. Hellraiser initially earned the dreaded X rating, and Barker had to cut numerous scenes to procure the commercially viable R. One of the Hammer murders had to be shortened by several frames. Another required the actor to do it with clothes on instead of doing it nude. But the funniest example involves Frank and Julia's sex scene. The MPAA blanched at the spanking foreplay and insisted the actual intercourse be trimmed. Barker says the organization told him that 2 buttocks pumps from Frank was okay, but 3 was too much. Who knew? Despite these challenges, Hellraiser remains one of the quintessential sick flicks. Barker's vision may have been slightly compromised, but the R-rated cut of the film is still a heady mixture of sex, violence, and gore. But just how gory is it? Let's score it on the Gore Card and find out. In terms of gross anatomy, Hellraiser delivers. Bob Keane and his FX team create some unforgettable splatter. We've got skinless Frank, multiple scenes of hooks tearing flesh, several Hammer murders, numerous exsanguinated corpses, and Frank being torn apart at the climax. Some of the effects look a little dated, but that doesn't diminish them at all. And because of that, Hellraiser earns a solid 4 Barf Bags out of 5. You don't want to end up on the wrong side of Frank or the Cenobites. Are you looking for a copy of Hellraiser? Well, good news. Arrow Video has just released their new HD version of the film, which is packed with extras and now is the definitive version to pick up. I've got a link to order it below. Have you seen Hellraiser? If so, let me know what you thought of it in the comment section below. Oh, and while you're down there, why not like this video and subscribe to the channel? I found a strange puzzle box while unpacking the other day, and I need some help solving it. You guys can lend me a hand, right? Oh, and while you're here, why not check out some of my other videos? You'll find a link to another sick flick here on the screen, and a link to my playlist of demon movie reviews. We all need more demon movies in our lives, so I'll see you over there. Until next time, I'm Mike Bracken, aka The Horror Geek, bringing you all the splatter that matters.